Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I've uploaded anything, so I want to catch everybody up on where I'm at. Finally starting to make a little bit of progress with the car, so if I'm ever going to make a video, this is a good time to do it. Catch everybody up on what's transpired. So let me flip the camera around and kind of talk you through what's been happening. Okay, so where did we leave off last time? I honestly don't remember. Probably had the big S485 on it. And the issue was that it was just too slow to spool on the street. The thing was a dog cruising around the street. I hated that turbo. But the real thing that made me take it off also was I could not get it to two-step. I could not get the RPM to build up to my 3800 RPM two-step. It would take like 12 to 15 seconds to even build any boost at all, which is outrageous. So to fix that problem, I actually changed the torque converter first. I had a Circle D 3200 RPM stall speed torque converter in it. It was a 12-inch converter, and everybody told me that was my problem. I should switch down to a small PTC converter, so I did that. That did not fix my two-step issue at all whatsoever. Chances are that I could have had it restalled even looser and it would have helped, but I have not done that yet. So instead of changing and having that torque converter restalled, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to throw on the little 7875 that used to be on the car and see how it does. So I threw on the 7875, whipped up a temporary exhaust, and went out and tested the two-step. Boom, instantaneously I was able to build as much boost as I wanted on the two-step, but it was still taking way too long. It was still taking 12 seconds to get up to the 3800 RPM. So it was a real mystery as to why that was, but the car spools so much better on the street with this turbo. I was very happy about that. But I went to Mocan and couldn't get any 60-foot times at all because I couldn't build any boost on the line. I couldn't get up to my two-step. So, again, I was faced with the decision, well, what do I do now? Do I have the torque converter restalled again, or is something else my problem? So I took it to the forums and asked the people, and they said, well, the real problem here is your intake manifold. What I had on the car was the BTR equalizer right here, and some people said, that this intake manifold kills so much torque that it kills your torque down low. And you're trying to spool at about 3100 RPM and it's hanging right there forever, and you're trying to get up to 3800 RPM, and it's because your motor makes no torque now down there. It doesn't make enough torque to get you over the hump. And they said this intake manifold was the problem. And I understood the logic behind it, but I really didn't believe it. But a local guy, his name's Cody, thank you, Cody, if you happen to see this. Really appreciate it, man. He stepped up and said, hey, I've got this truck intake that you can have. You can just borrow it for as long as you want it if you want to test it out. And so I did. I ran over to his place and picked this up and slammed it on the car real quick. Thankfully, all the fuel rails worked, and I didn't have to make almost any changes whatsoever. It just bolted on, and it was super, super easy, really. Had to make a new temporary throttle cable bracket, and I had to make some little tabs to mount the fuel rails down. But other than that, everything worked out, so that was a real quick and easy test. So I bolted this intake on, took it out on the road, tested my two-step, boom. Instantly I was able to get up to my two-step and build as much boost as the car would, and it only took 4.6 seconds to get up on the two-step. So that was the big revelation, was the intake manifold was indeed the problem all along. I'm sure the big turbo might have spooled slower on the brake, even with the better intake manifold, but I haven't tested that yet. So that's where we stand right now. We're back to a point where we can actually get up on the two-step in a reasonable amount of time, and we can build a lot of boost. So this was a borrowed intake, so I've got to take it off and give it back to the guy. And I could just go buy another one like it, but they're really, really tall. And I do still hold out hope that I will be able to get a hood on this car at some point in the future, so I don't want to use a truck intake, although it did solve my problem. So I decided I'm just going to go back to a car style, Corvette, GTO, Camaro style intake manifold, because it should still solve my low torque problem, because they have really long runners inside them. And I had a LS6 intake manifold on this car last year, and it two-stepped just fine. So I thought, well, I'll just pick up a car style intake manifold, give this one back, put the car style on. I'll be able to have a flat hood eventually, and I'll get all the torque I need to two-step it. So another good friend of mine, Kevin, thank you, Kevin, if you're watching this, appreciate it, man. He reached out and said, hey, I've got one off my Corvette. and you can come over and grab it and use it. So I went over and grabbed it today. So this is that. Beautiful intake manifold, very attractive. Does not have the EGR port that some of them do. So this is going to be awesome, and it's going to look good. And it's got these really long runners that go all the way around and curve on the inside. So that's good for torque. So yep, I've got that on there. So that's going to replace this now. And then tomorrow is Friday, so if I get that replaced and get a little road tuning done, sort out a little boost control problem I've got, then I could potentially make it back to the track tomorrow night, and I should be able to launch good. I don't see any reason why I couldn't go out there and run solidly, you know, in the 10s as a worst case scenario. Just using the parts I got here right now. So anyway, that's where we stand. Last time at the track I was running about 14 PSI on the turbo. My best time ever on this car was with that turbo at 20 PSI, and I ran a 980 at 143, which if you use the horsepower calculators and if you estimate this car to weigh about 3,100 pounds, the calculator says that equates out to 700 horsepower to the tires. So just as a point of reference, this little turbo on this combo of parts was capable of about 700 horsepower and high 9s on a super terrible quarter-mile pass. It was super not optimized. My shifting was super dumb because of a software glitch, and I had a small intercooler that didn't work very well at all. Now I got a big one that works awesome. So anyway, I guess the point I'm trying to make there is that even though this is not the baddest turbo in the world, even in a non-optimum situation, it still propelled this car to a 980. So I kind of just want to get back to that, to be honest with you. I want to get back to that point and then start working on making my pass really good, making my 60-foot good, making my shift points perfect, and just see if I couldn't turn that 980 into like a, you know, a 940 or something, 950. I don't know if that's possible, but I think it's definitely in the realm of possibility. So I'm just trying to get to that point again where I was last fall, where everything's kind of working well, and I can just make some A to B passes and start dialing in the chassis and working on, you know, just small tweaks like dialing in tire pressure and working on suspension settings, and see if I can get my 1.5 60-footer from last year on that pass down to, really I want it to be a 1.3. So that's kind of my goal. But anyway, that's just a small update on the car and what's been happening over the past few months. I've got to put this intake on today, and then I'll probably just sit on this guy for a future setup somewhere down the line. Here's the S485 that sucked and I hate. I also literally sucked in a piece of something. I think it was a vacuum tee, and I hurt this guy. You can see right there. So he's hurt, which is unfortunate, but sometimes that happens. So I think what I'll probably do with this is I'll just keep the turbine housing, because I really like the V-band inlet and outlet. And eventually, when I want more power than the little turbo can make, I will actually go back to this turbine housing, but I'll throw away this sucker and I will buy a genuine Borg Warner S475 or S476 or S480. I don't know, but I'm definitely not going VS racing again on the next turbo if it's a big turbo, because in my opinion it's super critical that the bigger turbo you go, the better it spools if it's a street car like this is. And this turbo was horrible on the street. So that turbo is out, but the turbine housing might in fact go back on the cars later on if I want more power than this guy can make. This guy's going to be about done at 700. Maybe I can squeak out 725 or something, but she's about done at 20 psi. But anyway, that's plenty of power to make this thing go pretty fast this year, and for me to have a lot of fun, and for me to really start dialing in the chassis and working on making it work and just get better at the art of drag racing. So that's where I'm at, guys. Thanks for watching the video. If you like this, give me a thumbs up, ask questions down below, and I will see you guys on the next one.